Hello everyone, my name is Faberia Pendragon. We are the Whisperers, and this is how to play Enforcer in Risk of Rain Returns. This intends to be a comprehensive guide, so it's going to go over everything from unlocking the character and all of his ults, to how to properly use them and what items work best for the character. So if you're looking to learn something, you're probably going to find it here. Enforcer is the only true tank archetype in Risk Returns. There are certainly tanky characters like the brawler Handy, who we covered last time, but Enforcer is uniquely kitted to hold his ground in the face of the crowd, with his frontal invincibility, while using a side of crowd control options to help keep the horde in line, all while doing enough damage to hold his own even when he's all alone. You acquire Enforcer by killing 3 bosses: the Magma Worm, the Wandering Vagrant, and the Colossus. They don't have to be killed in the same run, and they can all spawn stage 1. So if you're a new player interested in this archetype, you can just keep doing stage 1 until you kill all 3. Enforcer's primary fire is Riot Shotgun. It's a heavy short-range shotgun blast with some pretty hefty stagger that also pierces all enemies in its line. And unlike Chef's Cleavers, it can proc on-hit items for every enemy hit, meaning if you have something like Rusty Knife, you can bleed the whole horde dry. Sometimes though, a particularly bulky enemy will break through your line. And that's where the secondary Shield Slam comes into play. This melee knocks back enemies a significant distance to push them back into safer shotgunning territory. Its hitbox also reaches back a bit, so you can force enemies that flank behind you back in front of you with the rest of them. And keeping them in front of you is going to be important because of the core of Enforcer's kit, Protect and Serve. This locks your view in your current facing direction as you raise your shield, knocking nearby enemies away when you initially activate it, and blocking all frontal damage while you keep it toggled on. While firing, your movement speed is heavily reduced, but your fire speed is just as notably increased. Don't ask me how raising your shield also switches your pump action shotgun into a full auto. I don't know, maybe slam firing the damn thing. I do want to note 2 things here though. 1, again, activating the ability knocks away enemies. So get a few shots in while they're approaching, then activate it while they're right on top of you for free extra damage. 2nd, you can move faster by not firing. Just because you can't be hit from the front doesn't mean you won't need to reposition. Many attacks are blocked by slowly moving back while you fire, while others require you to occasionally stop firing and reposition before you start firing again. But you can and should reposition while keeping your shield up, as the 3-second cooldown does seem short, but Enforcer isn't the most mobile survivor, so if you get caught out at low health without it, you could be in lots of trouble since it's not only your survivability tool, but also your DPS boost. Thankfully, you have yet another tool to get you out of such sticky situations. In your special skill, Crowd Control. You launch a stun grenade that does decent damage, but more importantly has a huge stun AoE. This can be really handy for making your escape, or for keeping a crowd at bay in conjunction with your Shield Bash and Shotgun Stagger. Also, with an Ancient Scepter, this ability gains knockback to further help keep enemies off you. Combined, this kit lets you gather up and herd crowds together before cutting them down with your powerful shotgun, all while they're nearly powerless to stop you without the biggest enemies or an effective flank. However, you do need to be cautious of elites. Fire still hurts you from below, overloading elites can still hit you with their Tesla coil effect, and volatiles can hit you with their missiles. Frenzied enemies can teleport into your space behind your shield, and blighted enemies are just blighted enemies. Fuck that. And wisps of any kind just love to strafe behind you anyways. So again, I will stress that just because you have a shield does not mean you can just sit there and take hits without moving at all. You'll need to move, but it's just the type of movement will be different, more subtle adjustments to the specific enemies in the situation. Like a small backstep in response to a volatile missile to make sure it hits in front of you instead of behind you. Additionally, your other abilities are basically purpose-built for keeping those enemies at bay, so if you see elites and the like, you'll want to mark them as the high-priority targets in your mind. It's worth taking a few normal Lemurian hits if it means waiting the extra second to make sure your Shield Bash hits that overloading elite right in the teeth. And give them a grenade on the way out too. Fucking overloading elites. Now for the ults. Enforcer has ults for his primary fire, as well as his second and last ability, all of which can be acquired via Providence Trials. Your primary ult is unlocked via the Trial Scavenger Hunt. My strategy cuts it close, but it does work. Grab as many drones as you can as early as you can, and if you're lucky enough to get 3 missile drones at once, then sing the praises of whatever god you follow. Combine them at the central station, whatever you get, and then repeat until you have a small army. Drop down in the last 30 seconds after getting at least one of the keycard rooms. You will need the second keycard for the second door below, so make sure you grab both from the Elder Lemurians. And then let your army shred the scavenger below, and enjoy your free win. The ult secondary comes from Specimen Sampling. You need to use your shield charge and platforming to navigate the area, herding the gups to follow you to the end. You only have 1 health, so you need to watch out for these acid puddles and the bramble attacks from the sides. And at the very end, use your invulnerability from the shield charge to get over the last puddle. Alt 4 is obtained from the trial Go On Without Me. This one can be tough, so I'm going to show the whole run. First, run up and around the map grabbing these syringes and the goat hoof. Then head to this bottom left corner and gun down Lemurians as they approach. We're trying to avoid this elite that spawns first. You can't use your shield here, so when elders drop down, turn around and knock them off the map to deal with them quickly. Soon, more of those elites are going to attack. Jump and blast them with the Alt 4 this mission gives you to deal with them in one shot. As you get closer to the end, you're going to get worn down by bits of chip damage, so you're going to want to move up this vine to grab the heal waiting for you and continue the hold from here. At this point, you could very easily take this to gold, and if you get in more trouble, you can push right and grab the next heal. But as you can see, I did not worry about this too much for getting gold for this recording, so I just ended the run here. Now that we've got the alts, let's get into how to use them. Alt 1 replaces Riot Shotgun with Shrapnel Grenades. Instead of a piercing line, you fire a grenade that doesn't bounce but does have a bit more range than the shotgun. On impact, it hits an additional 3 times, all of which can proc on hit items, just like your shotgun. It does hit all overlapping enemies caught in the blast as well, and it can stagger and knock enemies around a little bit, but it only has 4 shots before you have to reload. This sacrifices your ease of crowd control to a degree for stronger single target damage, but once you have a lot of on hits, it can shred crowds just as easily. Just remember, it doesn't reload on its own. You do have to hit the ability key again or continue holding it to have that happen. Alt 2 replaces your Shield Slam with Shield Tackle, a forwards charge that makes you temporarily invincible and deals damage. This is just as effective for pushing enemies back, while also helping you get around and cross gaps. And best of all, it allows you to turn around at the end of the charge without dropping your shield. That alone is huge because you can reposition to dodge a big attack, deal damage to enemies, gather them up all into one spot, and change your facing direction, all while keeping your shield up to block damage, all in one ability. Pretty much a straight upgrade in my opinion, but you do have to be careful because you can't cut the charge short, so once you activate it, you're going the full distance. Alt 4 replaces Crowd Control with Disperse. This fires 3 shots in an arc, doing heavy damage if all 3 land, and it's even more effective on larger enemies, partially on account of it being easier to hit all 3 shots. While in the air, this ability fires downwards and gives you an upwards boost, meaning you can use it to jump scary enemy groups and hop to places you can't reach otherwise. With a scepter, this knocks up and stuns all enemies in a larger radius as well. These abilities allow you to trade out some of your innate crowd control in exchange for more direct single target damage and mobility, which can be a solid trade-off depending on your preference and playstyle. I think Shield Bash works better for grenades and the Shield Charge combos great with Disperse, but personally I only run Alt 2 usually and it's still as effective. Mix and match to find what you like and let us know your preferred loadouts below. Now that we know his abilities, let's look at what items work best for Enforcer. It's time for the item wishlist. In the white category, it's hard to praise Soldier Syringe and backup mags enough. More shield bashes or charges to reposition and turn around is fantastic, and the attack speed with his already great ability to proc on-hit items makes every other item he picks up more effective. Crit glasses are also great, especially if you run grenades. Last, barbed wire and any other item that punishes enemies that get too close to you are great, as well as tanky items, particularly Topaz Brooch. For green items, Hopo Feather is great for giving Enforcer a boost to mobility, especially when comboed with Shield Charge. Frost Relic and Charge Field Generator are also great, just like Barbed Wire, and on hits like Missile and Ukulele are crazy good. If you have crit glasses, then Harvester's Scythe and even more so Predatory Instincts are great because of how good attack speed already is with Enforcer. In red, Missile Launcher Mark II is just missiles but better, not much more to say there, and Hyper Threader is good for the same reasons. Hard Light for once isn't very good on Enforcer, so I don't recommend it. But Ancient Scepter with crowd control is really nice. Tesla Coil is good for the same reasons as Barbed Wire and Frost Relic, while Permafrost is fantastic for improving your already good crowd control or improving the CC of the alt loadout. For equipment items, you can kinda go for anything. Nearly all of them are good for him, but since on-hit items do very well for Enforcer, Mace Replica is the obvious choice here. Lastly, on boss items, I recommend Scorching Shell Piece, Legendary Spark, or Ifrit's Horn. 2 on hits or a barrier to punish enemies who sneak damage in past your shield. And that's it. It was hard not to just say that all the white and green items work great on Enforcer, because pretty much all items do. I didn't mention things like Tough Times, but really there are not very many items that don't work for this character. At the time of writing this, Mercenary and Drifter are locked in a dead tie, so I may be doing them both at once at this rate. We'll see what happens. If you liked this, please hit the respective buttons, go say some words down in the spot where words go, and subscribe to see more. I have a playlist with all my guides, so if there's another character you want to learn more about, you can find it there. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon.